Hey, wait, is this thing on? Oh, it is. Hey guys, this is, Editor Agent here, and I just wanted to inform you that we have a new goal, and the new goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Yeah, I know, it's a big goal from where we're at right now, but I believe in you. And, you, the viewer, yeah, you, if you look down slightly, yeah, keep looking, more, you see that? Yeah, that's the subscribe button. If you press it, you'll get notified about my videos and content. And every time I post, you will know about it. So yeah. And if you press the like button, you will show even more people about this spectacular content that you so love and enjoy. And also, just a random fact on the screen. There's just, new content that's going to come out when we reach 1,000 subscribers. I'm totally not spoiling anything, of course. But yeah, editor agent, I guess, is probably writing some stuff on the screen. If he is, make sure you don't pay attention to it. Yeah, don't worry about it. I am not a sellout, by the way, so yeah, don't worry about what it says on the screen. Just completely ignore that. But yeah, I've wasted your time enough. Unless you didn't do it. If you didn't do it, I'll wait. No, but like seriously, do it. Okay, so you probably did it by now. Back to your regularly scheduled program. What's up, guys? This is Agent What If, and I'm back again with another video. Sorry I'm talking so ungodly fast. I am outside, as you can probably hear. I don't come outside often because it's noisy, but yeah, I'll just bear with me for this video. I'll try to make a quieter place next video. But this video is what if Deku was Firestorm. So without any further ado, let's get into it. We start off with Izuku and his brother. I don't really have a name for him. I had some time to think on it, but I guess you guys, if you want to see a part 2, can just get a name for it. But essentially, Izuku's twin brother, right? They're inside of Inko right now, and she's not in the middle of giving birth, but she's pretty close to giving birth, right? Essentially, Izuku absorbs his twin brother, and when it's time for Inko to conceive, she is quite stunned when she finds out that she only has one baby when she was expecting twins. When the doctor informs her that nothing's wrong, and this sometimes happens, that if one twin isn't strong enough, the other twin will absorb that one. It typically happens from time to time. She immediately gets upset about this and starts telling Hasashi that they're not going to have twins. Hasashi then asks her if something happened. She basically tells him no, that apparently one twin absorbed the other. And she then asked Hasashi, what are we going to name them? What are we going to name him? And Hasashi then basically says, well, the names were supposed to rhyme, but since there aren't two of them now, I guess I'll just call him my grandfather's name, Izuku. She then says, okay, and hands the baby off to Hasashi. Kind of like, like if you've ever had something you didn't want and somebody asked you if you didn't want it, you could give it back to them. You kind of like slowly hand it to them. That's kind of what she did. Kind of like he was a bad sweater that she didn't want. Hasashi took notice of this, but didn't really say anything about it, and he just started playing with baby Izuku. We time skip 4 years. 4 years into the future, Izuku has been getting blamed constantly for the fact that he doesn't have a brother by his mother. His mother is very upset about this and doesn't let him ever attempt to forget it. Because of this, naturally, Izuku is upset with his mother sometimes, but he really blames himself more than anybody else. But when he turned to the age of 4, Izuku started hearing voices in his head. And Inko immediately tried to take this opportunity to basically send him to a psychiatric ward. Izuku didn't really want to go, and Hasashi told her no, and he basically thought that it was a quirk, like a mind reading quirk, that he was hearing people's voices because he was reading people's mind. This is what actually saved Izuku from going to a psychiatric ward. But as the years went by, the voice started getting louder and louder. Hasashi, thinking it was a mind reading quirk, tried to get him to read his mind, but it never seemed to work at all, right? Like at all. He could never tell what anyone was thinking. Hasashi was beginning to doubt, that Izuku had a mind reading quirk, and that he just had some other type of quirk, because Asashi refused to believe that his son was anything wrong with his son. Izuku had to get extra love from Hisashi because of the fact that it wasn't coming from Inko. So, Hisashi is really attached to Izuku. Hisashi is also a pro hero. And if you didn't actually know, Hisashi has a mind quirk. So that's actually why he was trying to do it. And you might be asking, well, if he has a mind quirk, why doesn't he just read Izuku's mind? Hisashi is specifically told, like everybody else, not to use quirk while he's off duty. So he basically turns his quirk off because of the fact that he's not, trying to he's not trying to get in trouble and lose his job and stuff. Especially on the rocky waters that he is with his relationship with his wife, because she seems to be a little not wanting Izuku, But anyway, as the years go by, the voice starts getting louder and louder, and eventually Izuku starts having full-on conversations with the voice in his head. Izuku has at this point developed multiple powers, such as being able to change his density, being able to shift the way things are and turn them into other things. He can shift already occurring matter, whether it be organic or inorganic matter, into any other type of matter he wants. He can shoot blasts of fire. He can fly. Izuku has super strength, super durability, super speed, and super stamina, even super agility. Izuku is also extraordinarily talented in nuclear physics because of the fact that he has a very intimate knowledge of how things work and how, atoms are structured and how matter exists because of his power. So he's kind of sort of a genius, but only really in that field specifically. Izuku started talking to the voices in his head a lot more often, right? Like a lot more often. It started to become one of those things where it's like they started to really get concerned about Izuku because he would have full-on conversations by himself. Izuku didn't pay any mind to this, really. He just didn't care, and he continued talking. One day, he asked if this disembodied voice was his long-lost brother, his dead brother, right? Talking to him from beyond the grave. His brother didn't respond with, "No, I am not your dead brother." Well, I guess you could say I'm dead, but I don't really understand what that means, because I've never truly really been alive. And Izuku then questions his brother about what this means. His brother says he doesn't know, and Izuku then says, "So you are my brother though, right?" And his brother then says yes, and Izuku then says, "Well, wait, if you're my brother, then how can you talk and stuff?" He then says, "The reason I can talk is because I've been in your head for a long, long while. And as you grew up, I grew up, at least mentally, of course. I had a physical body, but you absorbed that when we were children. Well, when we were still not even anything yet. So yeah, I don't have one of those anymore. I don't have a physical body, but I do still have a consciousness, I guess you could say." Izuku then proceeds to go and start thinking. His thoughts are heard by his brother, and his brother says that could work, but how? Izuku then says, "In order for this process to work, we need something similar to my body, unless you don't want to be 7 years old." His brother then says, "I'd be happy to be any age as long as I'm out of your head." Izuku then says, "Agreed." He then goes downstairs and he starts talking to his mom. His mom starts ignoring him, but Izuku starts touching her and messing with her, and she eventually turns around and asks him what he wants. Izuku then asks her if she has some money. She then says, "Of course I do. What do you need?" Izuku then says, "I have a project for school." And she basically squints an eyebrow, but eventually just stops caring and says, "Okay." She then asks what it is he needs for this project. Izuku then says a mannequin, around the size of him, a child-sized mannequin. Izuku then basically just says okay. She then says okay and says that it'll be here tomorrow. Izuku then says, "Now, for the other thing." He waits for his dad to get off patrol because he is a hero. His dad comes home and essentially opens the door and says, "Hey everybody, I'm home." And Izuku is sitting right next to the door, and his dad goes over to him, touches him on the shoulder, waking Izuku up. Izuku then basically says, "Oh, Dad, you're finally here. Good." And he starts grabbing his dad and pulls him up to his room, and he says, "Dad." And Hisashi then says, "What? Are you okay?" He says, "I need you to do something for me. Can you, per se, transfer the consciousness of a person to another body?" And Hisashi's kind of blown back because he didn't even think that his son would know about this, let alone even know what that means at 7 years old. But he then just basically says, well, if I could, what would you need it for? He then says, well, it's a secret. Hisashi then says, son, if you're going to ask me to use my quirk against regulation and possibly get fired, you're going to tell me why. Izuku then says, fine. The reason is because, you know the voice that you guys hear me talking to? Hisashi then says, I didn't know he knew that we were listening to him. Anyway, Hisashi then answers yes. Izuku then says that this voice is actually his brother, that when they merged, his consciousness stayed existing, but his body didn't. So, I have the body part covered. Hisashi then starts connecting the dots and says, wait, but what are you going to transform? Izuku then says, I'm going to do some research, but I'm getting mom to give me a mannequin around my size. I'm going to transform that mannequin into a human body, but without a mind operating the body will die. If the mind isn't telling the heart to pump blood and the lungs to breathe to give oxygen to the rest of the body, he'll just die. It's like the body will just die and wither away. Hisashi then says, oh, I see why you need my expertise now. But how are you going to do this? You're not an expert in biology, and you don't know how this is going to happen. Izuku then says, Dad, were we going to be identical twins? Hisashi then says, I don't know. I mean, you were twins, but I don't know if you were going to be identical. You were barely even existing yet. Izuku then says, fair enough point. Well, too bad. I'm going to give him some slight modifications, but he's going to have to look like me because I'm not going any deeper than that. His brother then says that that's fine. He doesn't really care, and he just wants a body. Hisashi then uses his quirk to read Izuku's mind, and he hears the second consciousness. Hisashi is then greeted by his second son, and Hisashi then is crying. He says, okay, Izuku, how long do you need? Izuku then says, it's gonna take me 2 to 3 days to at least get a decent knowledge of what I'm trying to do, but it'll take even longer to even understand the ins and outs of the human body. So give me like 2 months. Hisashi then says, I'll help you whenever I can, but you're gonna get the mannequin though, right? Yeah, Izuku says yes. Izuku then asks his dad, you know what, I asked for 1 mannequin, but I'll probably need more just to test. Hisashi then says, whatever you need, son, just let me know. Hisashi then goes out starting buying 7-year-old sized mannequins. He buys about 200 or so. Izuku immediately begins testing, but all of the different versions come out either way too young or way too old. Izuku is missing parts and like a brain and blood vessels and stuff like that, you know, key ingredients to a human body. He's not fully there yet, so he's still trying. His brother then tells him that he isn't on a timetable, but could he hurry it up? Izuku then says, I'm 7 years old, for Christ's sake. I'm not an expert. Izuku then begins to keep on trying, and we're almost hitting the 2-month mark. Izuku has used every single mannequin to test. He only has 1 left. Hisashi had just got off work, and he rushes to the back to Izuku's room. Izuku then says, Dad, okay, I've got everything I need. I did some slight modifications while you were gone. Izuku looks actually terrible. He looks horrible. Izuku looks sleep deprived, and he's basically starving. He says, okay, but after this, you're going to take a rest. You're going to go to sleep, and you're going to eat some food, okay? Izuku says, gladly, if I get this right, that is. Hisashi then gets a little bit worried, but then just smiles. He says, okay. So then Izuku comes up with the plan. We need to do this simultaneously, because if the mind goes in the body without, when the body is not a body, it'll just be him stuck in a mannequin. And I don't know if you can take it out of, a mannequin. So let's not even attempt that. The body needs to be made at the exact moment that the mind is inserted, or, the body will just flop over and start dying. Izuku then says on 3. And then Hisashi grabs his head and starts copying the second brain waves and consciousness and begins to transfer like a download. Izuku then waits, and his arm starts pulsing with energy, and the mannequin is not moving, but it's getting hit with massive amounts of energy, like that. It's creating shock waves, and it's even making a really loud noise and even shaking the house. Izuku then begins to thank God that his mother's not home. But just when that happens, the door opens and they hear the doorbell. She begins to say, What's going on? Why is the house shaking? Izuku says, we don't have time for this. We have to finish. Hisashi then says, of course, and they begin to finish. Izuku says on 3. 1, 2, 3. And Izuku pushes the mannequin as hard as he can, converting the energy, turning the mannequin into a 7-year-old boy such as himself. And the mannequin's consciousness is delivered via his father, Hisashi. It's the consciousness in his head. So his brother is now a real person. His brother then thanks his brother and father for the fact that now he has a real body. But what are they going to do? Wouldn't it be a little bit suspicious that all of a sudden they just have a second son? Izuku then says, you don't have to worry about that. A dad can just tell all the Hero Association to basically kind of sort of cover it up because, they don't really need to worry about that. Izuku then hugs his brother and so does Hisashi, and they begin to embrace. But their moment is ruined or interrupted when their mother walks through the door to see Izuku holding what looks to be himself but with white hair and white eyes. Izuku then basically says, what? He needs to look a little distinct from me. Izuku is then told by his mother that he can't do that. This isn't happening. This is all fake, and when I close my eyes and when I open them again, there won't be anything here. She does this, and they're still there. Anyway, his mother then agrees to this and begins to walk away. But with that, I think I'm going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, leave. Sorry for the abrupt pause, but I'm back now. Anyway, Izuku's mother then leaves the room, closes the door, and then opens it again. She then continues to do this for around, 20 minutes. And then it finally begins to sink in that this is not fake and this is real. Izuku is then given a very weird, kind of fearful look from his mother. And she begins to think to herself, wait, Izuku did all this? How strong is my son? He created a human body? What? And then she begins to not think about it too hard because she doesn't want to make herself not happy anymore about the new situation. Hisashi then catches her up with his mental powers because it would take too long to explain, and it's kind of a weird thing to say out loud, so he basically just skips that process. Izuku then tells his mother, so yeah, now that you understand, you're happy, right? At least you won't have to be mad at me anymore because he's not dead. She then begins to think about all that she put Izuku through and how he never actually gave up on her and still loves her anyway. She begins to cry, thinking, I'm such a terrible mother. I do not deserve a son such as himself. He's such a good boy. She then says, I'm sorry that the way I treated you was kind of cold, Izuku. Izuku then says, kind of, and she says, you're right. It was extraordinarily cold for something that you couldn't have controlled even if you wanted to. And I'm sorry. Oh my God, this is why I don't record outside. Anyway, and she basically says, I'm sorry. Izuku then says, sure, I accept your apology on one condition. And then she basically says what? Izuku then says, on the condition that you have to become a hero. And she then says, wait, what? Izuku then says, you got to become a hero. And she says, I don't want to become a hero, Izuku. And Izuku says, didn't you just say you were going to follow any of my one condition to make it up to me? She then says, but I'm not strong enough. And Izuku then says, yes, you are. You have at least level 6 telekinesis. You can lift about 100 tons with your telekinesis. And with that mental capabilities and energy manipulation, I'm sure he could do he's already doing stuff. And you are really close in power to him and just raw strength. And not including abilities, you could probably beat him in a 1v1. Hisashi then says, hey, let's not cap. And Izuku then quiets down. But he then continues saying, Mom, you could save so many people. And you'd also make a lot more money. She then begins to protest, but then thinks about the much more money. She then says, but where would I even go to become a hero? And Hisashi basically gives her a mental, knowledge of how to become a hero. And she accepts. Hisashi then says, do you agree? Do you want to become a hero? And then she just says, well, if it's for my son, then sure. And Izuku, she then says, okay, well, fine, but on one other condition. Izuku then says, that's not really how this works, but sure, what's your condition? She then says, you also have to become a hero. Izuku says, I'm cool with that, but before we get to that, let's do something much more interesting. And then Hasashi then says, wait, what? Izuku then says, we're going to go test his quirks. And Hasashi then says, quirks? Izuku then says, oh, right, when I made his body, I said I gave him a few tweaks. The white hair and yellow eyes aren't for nothing. Hasashi then says, my son created another monster just like himself. What have I done? Izuku then basically walks his brother, who I'll let you name, down the stairs and out in the back. Hasashi then says, wait, before you do that, let's just go to sleep. You guys don't have... It's funny, it's kind of weird saying you guys now, but you guys don't have school tomorrow. So, and we also would have to sign him up for school. So wait till tomorrow. I will be off tomorrow, and I'll take you guys to a training ground. Hasashi then says, okay, and they both agree. We then skip to tomorrow in a long drive. The entire family is going, well, to what the Hero Agency think is a 1 or 2 day vacation. They begin to go to one of Hasashi's facilities because, you know, he's very rich and powerful, so yeah, of course he has facilities. And Izuku is then told by his dad to let his brother display what he has to offer. Izuku then says, sure, there's about a couple of things I did, but I guess he needs to figure it out for himself. We basically skip to 10 hours later. They left at 10 in the morning, so now it's 10 at night. Or my math is probably wrong. Hold on, I'm stupid. Sorry about that. Let's just call it 5 hours. So it's now, what would that be? That'd be 3. It's 3 in the afternoon. His brother has figured out all of his quirks. Like I said, he comes from a genius. He comes from a monster, so of course he's a monster. I mean, his parents are absolute monsters. They're just not to the... His parents are monsters, but Izuku is an entirely different beast. Izuku, if they're a monster, they're like King Kong. His parents are King Kong, and Izuku is Godzilla, right? Like it's comparable, but not on the same scale, right? You know. So his brother basically has a wide assortment of powers. The most prominent one is called the fusion dance. Yes, I had to put it in here. It's firestorm, okay? Just go with it. Anyway, essentially, Izuku made it so that their atoms can essentially become one, and it basically makes their power 5 times, all of their powers 5 times more effective and 5 times stronger. It even puts them into a new state of mind, right? Basically, it adds potential power, which it basically takes the potential power of their current power and adds that together along with their power and then scales that up by 5. So yeah, it's more than just them on top of each other times 5, right? So yeah, like fusion dance rules, right? You know, or fusion rules from Dragon Ball Z. Anyway, Izuku then says, but aside from that, what else do you have? Show us what else you have. He also has the ability to have super strength, super speed, super durability, agility, and all of that. He has energy manipulation like his dad. He has telepathy. He has the phase shifting, and he has telekinesis as well. And he also has energy transfer, which just allows him to transfer energy from one thing to another. Because of this power, he can essentially transfer energy from, like, I don't know, a plant, absorb a tree's energy, and transfer that energy into something else. Or just give it to someone else, healing them or making them stronger, or even just increasing their overall power or giving them extra abilities. Like I said, a monster. He also has a transformation quirk, which allows him to transform and have the abilities of anything he takes the form of. Whether it be a person or a thing, it really doesn't matter what it is. He can just take, he gets the abilities of the thing he transforms into on top of his already enormous powers and abilities. So yeah, pretty OP. He also can see in every single way there is to see, which is infrared. He can see through things. He can even see on a molecular level. He has ice breath, and he also has the ability to make his hair grow, which Izuku just put in there because he really just wanted to give him a stupid power. So yeah, so he can kind of use his hair like Medusa, but he's not that trained yet. So with this, Izuku then bows, saying, "I present to you my brother, the absolute monster, the absolute beast of carnage." And his parents' jaw drops, and Izuku immediately gets reprimanded for giving his brother such unusual and powerful things. Izuku then says, "What? You wanted me to make him weak?" And then they both say, "No, I would prefer him to be strong, if anything. I wouldn't want my son to be weak, especially if he's going to be a hero." And Izuku says, "Okay, isn't that enough training? Let's get something to eat and lay down. I'm tired." Izuku then is informed by his brother that it's 3 o'clock, and Izuku then says, "Oh, right." Izuku then flies, picks his brother up by the arms and says, "Mom, Dad, we're going to go see the scenery. Bye." And then his brother tells his parents, "You guys should train, because if Mom's going to become a hero, she needs to be experienced in combat. So, Dad, that's up to you." And Hisashi then says, "Well, this will be a long day." She then says, "What's going to be long?" Hisashi then says nothing and scratches his head and says, "Okay, activate training sequence 21. But with that, I think we're going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And, I don't know, do the other stuff you do when, you're liking or enjoying videos, I guess. Subscribe and stuff. I don't know. Sorry for the late upload. Stuff happened. I'll try to keep you on schedule. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. And also, make sure to subscribe. Yeah, I said that multiple times because we're at 644, I think. So, yeah, make sure we get to 1,000 by the end of the year. It's closing in. We're halfway through the year now, as of today, the day of this video being made, which is June 3rd, I want to say. So, yeah, you guys definitely, you're on a ticking timetable. And I already got your gifts and stuff and your new videos and your specials and stuff like that ready. So make sure you be a good little subscriber and you subscribe, okay? Anyway, I'm gonna stop being weird.